Hey there, it's Shelly, and I'm here with an astro video for you. This is all about our last month with Saturn in Aquarius. Maybe not your last month, but your last month for another 30 years. Saturn is on a 29.5-year cycle. It's going to move into Pisces March 7th. So this is a time where we really need to take note of the Aquarian side of things and build those structures, put in our last little bits of how we want things to look moving forward. The realm of Aquarius is technology, groups, friends, those things we identify with as our society. It's also about the ideals that we carry into those situations. So to just illustrate Saturn in Aquarius, think back to March 2020. This is when Saturn entered Aquarius. Now, I don't want to say for even a second that Saturn in Aquarius is really what this whole time has been about, but it's been a player. It has changed the way we look at technology and how we use that technology. It has changed the way we look at each other, and it's changed the way that we communicate. It's changed our perceptions. It's changed what we think is important and what we want our society to look like. Now, when I say society, this can be the world, the whole society. It can be your nation. And as with Aquarius often, it can be really small niche groups, all these things. No matter what side, I'm thinking of the US here, no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, you can think of ideas and movements that manifested with Saturn and Aquarius and individuals who found these movements important. So as we move forward this last month, think about your individual self and how this individual self can put things in motion still, can craft things within a group setting with the help of other people, and what you want those things to look like. What technology do you want? How do you want that to be in your life? How do you want it not to be in your life? You can't control everything about what's going to happen, but you can have a say in it, and you can plant the seeds. You can do the small steps. You might already be doing the steps to move forward, but this is an extra juicy time when we're at the very end of a cycle. And this is always an important time to put those last little bits in motion. So to individualize it, I've made a video here, a very short video for each sun and rising sign to tell you what area of life beyond the collective level, how this might manifest in your personal life. Hey there, Aries and Aries rising. We have Saturn in Aquarius in your 11th house. Your 11th house is about those things that you dream about, those things that you strive for, those ideals that shape your motion. I think you probably know this already because you've probably been going through a change in those areas. These past 3 years have questioned you, have caused you to change things about yourself and what you want to go after, to streamline it a bit. And you also have probably noticed that some of the friends you had around aren't there anymore. And some of the groups you thought were important aren't so much. But there's other things that you've noticed that you want to add to your repertoire, or that you have. People that you want to support. People that you want to be a part of. Movements that you care about. All of this is really about your 11th house. And for this past month, or rather this month moving forward, this last month, not this past month, this last month, you should really look to how you communicate. I say this because your ruling planet Mars is in the 3rd house, and this is all about communication. It's making a connection to that Saturn. Your big, bold communication style is something that can be influential, and it's something you can use. Really look, and when you're talking about your networks, look to things close to home right now, things in your immediate neighborhood or vicinity that are more easily within reach, and play with that. Look with that information and see where it takes you. Build the structures while you're going after the goal. During this last month, see what's possible, see what vision you have, and reach out to others about it. Hey there, Taurus and Taurus rising. Saturn in Aquarius is in your 10th house. It's on an angle. It's at a very important part of your chart. The 10th house is about your career, but don't get that word all confused. It is perhaps the way you make money, but it can also be the ways in which your legacy looks. How do you want to be seen? What is it that you're putting forth to create, and how does that look? And do you want to make money doing that? These are all questions of the 10th house. And with Saturn there, with Aquarius there, you do have the ability to build those structures. And I'm sure you've had some questions over this past 3 years about how you want that to look and what kind of changes you want to make. So put out your feelers and set those things in motion. Uranus is still in your first house and has been during this Saturn time. So there's been a lot of shakeup for you in your identity as well as your career. This will continue to happen. When Saturn moves on, there won't be that square to Saturn. So it won't be as perhaps immediately intense, but you're going to still be feeling some of this need to revamp yourself. This is awesome. Go for it. For this last month, think about that and what you want to put in motion. And also, your ruling planet Venus is going to be in 2 houses during this time, the 11th and the 12th. So first of all, 11th house, think about your social networks, the people you know, and what you can tap into to support you. And then for the second part, think about more inner work. Think about going into yourself, seeking solitude, and the support of people you care about, but really what it is inside of you, what it is that's going to motivate you through this, through the things you're creating, through the structures that will support you and your larger vision. Hey there, Gemini and Gemini rising. Saturn in Aquarius is in your 9th house. So the 9th house is a very exploratory house. This is all about learning, and you've done a lot over it over the past 3 years. You've explored things. You've maybe even changed your ideas about what learning means to you and what kind of formal learning you might want to take part in. Higher education, travel, courses, teaching, all of these things play into the story of your 9th house. So while you're building these structures, you might have dreams about where you want to go. How are these big ideas, how are your philosophies going to play into actually manifesting something? And those skills you have, the communication skills you have, whether they're written, verbal, dancing, pantomime, whatever they are, you do have an ability to connect people to one another. And what does that mean for you? Mars is in your first house right now, and this is a part of how you can really utilize this last month to take advantage of this Saturn and Aquarius energy. It might feel agitating, you might feel energetic and motivated. Whatever it is, see if you can use that energy and push it forward into concrete steps. Identify small things that will help you build those structures that you want. Now that you've spent the 3 years exploring, what is it that you want? And how can you reach out to other people to help you manifest that? What is it that you're going to do? Yourself, your identity, the new way of being, all part of the story. Hey there, Cancer and Cancer rising. Saturn in Aquarius has been moving through your 8th house. This is all about how you really reach in to those parts of yourself, deep into yourself, and find their expression with other people. These are partnerships. So if you do have a romantic partner, this is the first thing this house gets signaled as. What is that person contributing? What are you contributing? What are the things you share? What are the spoken and unspoken agreements that you have? With Saturn here, this has been a time to really get to work about those agreements. What are the things that resource-wise you share? The tangible things, the bank accounts, the house, the car, the skateboard, the dog. These are your shared resources. And then also the emotional work, the emotional intensity of the things you share, the deep intimacy, and the challenges that come with it. This is all part of your 8th house. I want to note as well that it can also be about just other people, people that you're in relationship with. Do you have clients? Do you work with people one-on-one? These people can come into the story. How are you experiencing the money that maybe exchanges hands, or the conversations that you're having? All of this is a part of Saturn and Aquarius for you. And you really want to think about the fact that you are ruled by the moon. It's a very different energy from Saturn. So your need to emotionally express, to be understood with Saturn creates a structure for this. It creates a way for other people to actually move forward with you. The ones that don't understand you, the ones that might need some help. So this last month, think about how you can build those structures. You can do the things to help you be better understood, and how that can lead you to a deeper sense of connection. Hey there, Leo and Leo rising. Saturn rules your 7th house of partnerships. And it's on an angle for you. An angle is an important area of your chart. It's always going to be present. So wherever Saturn is going to tell a story about your partnerships. Saturn in Aquarius tells us that you're going through a time, and have been going through it for the past 3 years, where you're learning to build your relationships. You're learning to get rid of what doesn't work and move on to what does, whether that's ending relationships, mending relationships, starting new ones, or building a greater and stronger foundation to move forward for the ones you're a part of. There are romantic relationships in this story, but there are also other kinds of relationships. The 7th house generally talks about relationships that are contractual in some way. Now, this doesn't mean you wrote out a contract, although it can, but it also can mean that you have some sort of verbal contract, or just a contract via the way that you live and the way that you interact with one another, that maybe isn't explicitly stated, but might work better if it were. So think about any kinds of those relationships that you have on any of those levels. And now that you have a better idea of what you want those to look like, how you can strengthen them moving forward, and how when you're creating new relationships, to stay true to that vision of what you learned over these past 3 years. And then Saturn will move on, and you will be able to manifest something else, something new, something creative, and something that will allow you to shine as a Leo and bring out the light in those that you shine with. Hey there, Virgo and Virgo rising. Saturn in Aquarius is in your 6th house. The 6th house, it's all about how you do things. It's all about your habits. It's all about your daily routines. So you've been going through changes in these areas. Some key points. How do you use technology? How have you changed how you look at technology? And for this next month, think about ways that you want to utilize technology and ways that you don't, and really try to put those habits in place. Be honest with yourself, use what works, get rid of what doesn't. And what kind of other things are important, like the food you eat, the exercise, the rest, all the things that are important. These habits stick with us. And as a Virgo, someone with a Virgo signature, you really like sometimes to utilize every minute, to be very efficient about what you do. And this is a time to honestly help you be more efficient by digging into the patterns that work. Aquarius is all about that. It's all about looking at things in new and interesting ways and coming up with new solutions. With that, it's also about how other people play in to your daily routine. In what ways and in what ways not. So how are you gonna both help and utilize the support you have and help other people and utilize the support you have and contribute to something that you see in a larger way as important? Don't get overwhelmed by the details. Just for now, if you have this vision of a society that you want to live in, take a step towards it and take a step each week towards it. It could be small. Let yourself do that. Let yourself not focus on the big overwhelming picture or all the details it'll take to get there, and just do one thing and then call upon your networks, the people you know, to help you manifest it. Move forward that way and make sure that you know what's important to you and what you want it to look like. Hey there, Libra and Libra rising. Saturn in Aquarius is in your 5th house. 5th house, it's all about play. It's all about fun. Now that might seem odd to you because maybe you haven't been experiencing play and fun over the past 3 years, but Saturn there is about building structures for those things. It's about what do you want things to look like and how can you have fun while doing them? How can you be childlike in a way? How can you work towards the results, but also detach from the outcome? So you're working towards something, but then you're not self-identifying with what it ends up being. It's an interesting thing because the 5th house is about creativity, and you've been working through that, what that means for you for the past 3 years. So there's an inner component, there's an inner beauty that is about taking some sort of risk that maybe feels heavy or difficult or scary, putting it out there, and then letting it be, letting it live a life of its own. You're also exploring the ways in which you play sexually and what that means and how you interact with other people. The calculated risks in all areas of life. This is a 5th house thing, And as a Libra, Saturn is something that you identify strongly with. In fact, it's one of your rulers. Libra, Saturn in Libra is exalted. So it likes Libra energy. And when we're talking about Aquarius, both air signs. So there is some sympathy going on here. There's some work and some effort. And that's what you are partially creating. That's what you're going through. And as we move on into Pisces, you'll be exploring something new and exploring new realms of both relationship and your daily life. So for now, for this last month, think about those ways in which you can put stuff out there and have fun while doing it, while detaching a bit from the outcome. Hey there, Scorpion, Scorp rising. You have Saturn in your 4th house. It's been on an angle. The 4th house is your foundation. Saturn in Aquarius on your foundation is asking you what, first of all, you want your home to look like. Where do you want to live? What are the physical characteristics of that home? And who might be inside of it? Who might you invite into it? What things are your own that you don't want to share within that? Do you want to live alone? And if you are living with people, what things are yours? What is your space? What is your security? What is your own thing? This has been a time for you to ask those questions, and particularly with Uranus in your 7th house. So there's been a question about what you want in there, who you want in there, and who you want to live with. Some of that might have changed, some of it may not have, but Saturn has given you the opportunity to build something that you want here and to set it in motion. Saturn is a long cycle. Saturn is a 29.5-year cycle. So this has been about clearing that out and rebuilding. Another important thing to note about the 4th house is that it is really about some deep emotional stuff. So when we're working with Saturn here, it can be heavy, it can be challenging, and it can bring up a lot of stuff, ancestral stuff, parental stuff, and you're still in the process of working through that. So let yourself go into it with a sense of ease as well as responsibility, because both components are really important here. You have your ruler right now in the 8th house, Mars in the 8th house. So this last month is definitely telling a story about other people and how you intermingle with those people and what that means to you. 8th house is about shared resources. So look to those things that you share with other people to give you clues to how you want your inner space as well as your immediate outer space to look. Hey there, Sag and Sag rising. Saturn in Aquarius is moving through your 3rd house. And a lot of us have had this story for the past 3 years where we might have felt restricted. But as a Sagittarius, someone who likes to explore, who likes to learn, who doesn't like to be cramped up, and who may have been restricted to a physical setting, something that they weren't able to change, this may have presented some challenges, most likely. And that was, for you, a story of how you can use your immediate neighborhood, how you can use the people immediately close to you, how you can use your siblings, for example, the people that know you well, how you can use those relationships and those places to contribute to your long-term learning, how you can communicate in ways that maybe you hadn't thought of to get your message out there. A lot of this is a story of how you teach, how you put your voice out there, and how other people perceive of that, and what you need to do to make that work. And looking at your immediate neighborhood, and even close by, but things that are like a day trip, not too far away, these are good places to look for outlets, for ways to build and to teach and to expand your philosophy. Jupiter is your ruler, Jupiter in Aries. So during this time, it's going to be in your 5th house. You might be taking some risks. You might be asked to take some risks. You might be pushed to take some risks. And I encourage you to think about what these risks mean, what the play, the fun you're having, what it means in context of how you want to build what's around you, how you want to learn how to communicate on even higher and better levels to reach more and more people, and how that as well, how your fun and risk-taking may not be the same thing, but how your fun, how your risk-taking, how those can inform what you learn from that. And when you're even thinking about doing something, how that can inform what you want to build and how it's going to look moving forward. Hey there, Capricorn and Capricorn rising. Saturn is really, really important because it rules you. It's your ruling planet. Wherever it is, wherever it falls, it's going to tell a story about you directly. Saturn is now in your 2nd house. It's your house of resources. So for the past 3 years, you've been learning about, first, what it is that you want. What are the physical things you want in your life? How much material stuff do you want? How does it benefit you? How is it pleasurable? And in what ways can you build the structures to have those things that you want? You have that ability with Aquarius on your 2nd house cusp to really build the structures, and through this time with Saturn here, to put them in place. So we're talking about the big things to the small things, to the book you own, to the toothbrush, to possibly a house or whatever else. These are 2nd house things. The other side of the 2nd house are your resources that aren't so tangible. They might contribute to those resources, but it's more about your sense of self, your self-esteem, how you show up in the world, and how those things influence what you're able to manifest. Saturn can be heavy, Saturn can be challenging, but it can also allow you to be able to realize what it is that you want to be and how you want to feel, and what it is that you're willing to manifest. Maybe you thought something was important when you were younger, and now you're like, no, it's not. These things are an important part of having a Saturn-ruled 2nd house. You're learning with this Saturn transit how to set those things in motion to build over time the kind of life you want to live. And whether that's a life that has certain things in it, or a life that has certain things in it and also draws on a deep sense of meaning, this is an important 2nd house thing. Hey there, Aquarius and Aquarius rising. Saturn's in your sign. So that means it's either on your sun or moving through your 1st house. So Saturn is notoriously kind of challenging when it moves through the 1st house or it's on your sun, because it's an opposite kind of energy. The sun wants to shine, Saturn wants to restrict. As an Aquarius, though, or someone with an Aquarian signature, Saturn is your ruler. So there is a certain amount of comfortableness with this. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's all comfortable. I'm just saying that you have ways of coping with it that other signs may not. You understand what it means to have both that individual vision, but then also what it takes to put it in place, the effort that it takes and the work that it takes, and how these things are important because they build on one another. There's a creativity and a very mind-driven part of Aquarius that allows it to tap into both these unseen realms and then the very, at the same time, what some might call mundane structures of society. So you're able to utilize both of these and to envision something that you hadn't thought of before 3 years ago that you can use to create this new idea of who you are and what you want to be and how you want to be and show up in the world. Saturn presents challenges. And this last month you have right now, just put things in place. Take the little steps and tap into the people you know. Tap in to those ways that you have of reaching out and discern by who responds what comes back to you, the threads that you can work with later, and let them be flexible. Let that kind of flow to you, and in an Aquarian way, take hold of the ones that make sense. Hey there, Pisces and Pisces rising. Your Jupiter ruled expansion, all about opening up. Saturn, on the other hand, is about contraction, coming down. So Saturn can be challenging for you. In Aquarius, it's been going through your 12th house, which is a little bit hard to grasp onto. It's probably brought up feelings of isolation, of separateness, maybe separateness that you didn't want, didn't ask for. And you've been learning coping mechanisms for dealing with this, how you can best take care of yourself, perhaps how you can create the boundaries when people aren't respecting you, and how you can also learn to manage those boundaries within yourself when they're imposed on you and you didn't want them. And it's hard because Pisces needs to be in touch. It needs to expand. The 12th house is also about solitude. It's about the positive side, loneliness being perhaps negative, solitude being more positive, and finding the oneness in being with oneself, and then that connection that creates to everything else. Okay, that's all high ideals and everything, but it's part of the story. And with Jupiter right now in Aries, you're being asked to pull out the courage and the boldness, and to maybe not worry so much about what it is that might be too heavy or too difficult for other people, and just letting that be a thing, letting yourself be in whatever it is that you need right now and whatever it is that's important to you. This last month, look to your dreams for information. Look to when you go to bed at night, whatever comes up, even though it might not be immediately apparent, or even if it does seem immediately apparent, write it down and then take a look at it a little bit later, and then make steps based on that knowledge. And if you don't take any concrete steps, take the step to just be dedicated to yourself and to what's important to you. And that the relationships you're in and the people you interact with are respecting you and respecting that part of you that is so expansive, that is so Piscean, that sees that we're all connected.